June, a month short of his 33rd year, Alexander's great heart finally gave out. And, as he vowed, he joined Hephaestion. But in his short life, he achieved, without doubt, the mythic glory of his ancestor Achilles, and more. His sacrifice was an early death, but in keeping to his side of the bargain, I cannot help but feel he conquered death as well. Olympias's transgression in the murder of his father is, to my mind, a probability. His, a burden. Alexander was too in love with glory for him to steal it.
An A to Z of Hellraisers, a comprehensive compendium of outrageous insobriety, still a mouthful, by Robert Sellers. Alexander the Great, Warrior King, 356 to 323 BC. The Macedonians were a people of legendary drinking habits, unlike their most civilized neighbours the Greeks, who diluted their wine with water. Like Brits on holiday in Ibiza, they drank for no other purpose than to get smashed. Drinking contests were an accepted and everyday part of life in Macedonia, and it was not uncommon for the winner to end up dead from overindulgence. Alexander the Great was a Macedonian, born in the shadow of Mount Olympus, home to the gods. Tutored under Aristotle, as a youth he shied away from getting blotto, indeed looked scornfully upon his father, King Philip, an habitual drunkard who thought nothing of going into battle troll-eyed. An inveterate womanizer to boot, Philip claimed 7 wives, getting the hots for Alexander's mother, Olympus. I think it's Olympia, really. Yeah, from the film, with Colin Farrell and Angelina Jolie and so on. When she was just 12 years old. A rare beauty, Olympia was addicted to weird religious cults. Legend has it she slept with snakes. A tremendous schemer, she also made sure that when her husband was assassinated in 336, Alexander, already an outstanding warrior, was the obvious heir to his throne, and the 40,000 troops that went with it. Although barely 20, the new king set his sights on the Persian Empire, then the largest on earth. His conquests would span 12 years and covered the territories of what are now Turkey, Lebanon, Egypt, Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan, and Pakistan. As he vanquished, becoming the most powerful man alive, Alexander turned increasingly to alcohol, perhaps to anaesthetize himself against the constant fighting and killing. There was also his worship of Dionysus, the god of intoxication. Wine was his gift to man, and by pouring the stuff down his throat, Alexander was paying homage, wasn't he? Wine was certainly his beverage, one he took every day, which leads to one to speculate that Alexander must have lived much of his adult life intoxicated to various degrees. As commander-in-chief, Alexander often staged great feasts of drinking for his closest allies. The most memorable, which must go down as history's ultimate booze-bender, took place in the conquered city of Persepolis, one of the treasures of the Persian Empire. Yeah, and if you've seen Alexander, then when I upload this, you'll get the kind of morbid, buggered up joke that I'm making when I put the certain image. Fuck it, I'll spoil it. Clytus and Alexander, which is getting to here now. The whole thing degenerated into a riot, with revellers going on a rampage, razing much of the city to the ground. Alexander himself led the way by throwing the first firebrand into the royal palace. Back home, Macedonians shook their heads in dismay that such a wondrous city had been destroyed by their king during a grand piss-up, then turned to the barman and said same again. Oh no, it's not that yet. Another time, Alexander organised a mighty drinking contest, offering a gold crown to the victor. A young nobleman by the name of Promachus took first prize, managing to quaff at some 14 quarts of wine. I'm sorry about my stammering. Sometimes I like to read at length and maybe I do it too quickly. Anyway, yeah, back to it, as Negan says. Then a wind blasted through the camp, by the end of which Promachus and some 40 of his fellow competitors lay dead, fell by a combination of the cold and plain drunkenness. As dependency on the wicked brew increased, Sir Alexander's character changed. An affable sort of chap when not putting nations to the sword, it was drink that sent him over the edge, made him offensively arrogant, and descend to the level of the common soldier, according to a contemporary. His drinking became so pronounced that he'd need to sleep the whole of the next day to recover from his wild binges. Friends began to grow weary of Alexander's unpredictable nature. Without much judgment, he could suddenly perpetrate acts of heinous violence. He once dragged an enemy general behind his chariot until he was dead. Then there was a flight of... there it is. It's coming up. It's there. As Sean Ryder said in a Gorillaz song. Then there was the fate of Clytus, one of Alexander's most loyal friends and soldiers. It was during a celebration, which inevitably turned into another drunken orgy, that the two men clashed. Clytus, angry that Alexander was favouring his new Persian courtiers over his old Macedonian troops. Angry words were batted to and fro, tempers were raised, and then suddenly Alexander, too much wine swelling in his belly, took a javelin and rammed it through his old friend, killing him. Like most stinkers, he quickly regretted what he'd done, retiring to his tent, where he spent the rest of the night weeping uncontrollably. Ominous clouds were beginning to hover above Alexander. His officers, missing home after so many years on the march, grew unruly, and the king's own strength began failing him. His mind, too, started wandering, as he believed himself to be no mere man, or a god with a thirst to conquer yet more lands. Yeah, again, in the film, he claims descend from Heracles or Hercules and Zeus and so on. And there's also Pater Zeus, which is supposed to be a different Zeus or another form of Zeus. Anyway, which in the film Clytus kind of mocks him for. An assassination attempt made on him by those fearful of his growing despotism failed, ironically because of drink. The plot was to kill the king as he lay sleeping in his tent, but that night Alexander indulged in one of his now quite common marathon drinking sessions and never retired. The conspirators, all teenagers, were found the next day and tortured to death. The omens were coming quick and fast. Hephaestion, Alexander's closest friend, whose capacity for booze rivaled his own, drank a half-gallon of chilled wine for breakfast one morning and promptly dropped dead. Alexander threw himself on the body where he remained the whole day until his guards dragged him away. It was an eerie foreshadowing of his own death barely 12 months later. There are many rumours as to how There are many rumours as to how exactly Alexander perished. Close enough. He may have been poisoned by enemies or succumbed to some disease, perhaps malaria, that his immune system had no chance of defeating. Was it the booze that got him? In those final months, he was consuming insane quantities and was probably, by the time of his life, an alcoholic. At the end of a drinking bout in Babylon that lasted 2 days and nights, Alexander insisted on drinking the health of every person in his presence, and so called for the club of Hercules, or Heracles I guess it would have been, the capacity of which was legendary. After dancing the whole thing, he collapsed in a heap and was taken to bed, where he developed a fever and died several days later. So dead at 32, his military achievements unparalleled in history, but it was a sad decline, from strapping youth with the world literally at his feet to a paranoid, aggressive, see you Jimmy, drunk. Yeah. I mean, I really like this book. I was gonna put it originally in, cracking reads, as this kind of probably said before. But I thought, why don't I just kill two birds with one stone, so to speak? read some entries for you, in alphabetical order as well. They're pretty much in alphabetical order, I think. Well, Art Accord is definitely AA, and then Alexander is AG, more or less. A the G, but you don't put they in the initialism. But yeah, sorry for the kind of stammering and stuff like that. So like fucking again, sound like bloody Arkwright, and for that, his uncle, basically. If you know Open All Hours, or new Open All Hours. But anyway, yeah, that was pretty much the second entry or chapter. I guess they're entries, but in order wise, they're chapters really. So second chapter, of the Hellraisers. So yeah, I'm gonna go off and edit this, and I'll see you tomorrow for the fun fact.